Hello, this is Patrick W. Crawford, Moo-Ack Productions, and this is the demo video for the update to the Fancy Feet 2.5 version rig. So firstly, the link to get this new rig is bit.ly/Minecraft rig, capital M, capital R, and that will bring you to the blend swap page where you can download it. Just create a free account and download this humble 1 megabyte rig. When you open Blender with this file, what you'll initially see is this view exactly here. And you can see we have the already pre-posed rig. So first to demo it off, I'm going to clear the rig. So this is probably what you want to do whenever you want to start using this project. Or if you library link, it's already going to be unposed anyway. So I'm going to hit Alt-R, Alt-G, and Alt-S. Alright, so, and if you notice at first the legs are slightly bent, that's because of the Fancy Feet rig. Either turn off Fancy Feet, which does the auto rolling rocking, or just move the body up a little bit. It's easier. So, the new improvements in this version of the rig. Firstly, I updated and modified many of the bone shapes. So, for example, bones of the neck and so forth are a little bit easier to see because they're doubled up. And things that are curvy deforming have curves in them. So, like, for example, this rounded rectangle corner is what makes the upper torso move, bottom torso, things like that. New additions also include, I have added wrists. So I personally probably won't use it that much, but some people like it and they're there so you can use it. So that works seamlessly with the sharp bends, of course, and it's another useful, versatile thing you can have. Related to hand controls, if I actually go over here and only turn on the first layer, again, there's 2 layers for different sets of like detail. The first layer is most general, the second layer is more like details, but for the most part, most controls you should only need the first layer. So I go back into here. I have added an extra control for fingers, for example. So while you can still individually control the fingers, all those bones are here as so. You have this nice handy control for trying to control them all at once. So you can kind of make the hands curl depending on where you place it. You can make it so just the first index finger is opening. That's just with translation. And then by rotating, you can control the thumb directly. So this is really convenient. With one control, you can, for the most part, control all the hand shapes you want, or things like that. And again, for hand shapes that you can't accomplish directly with this control, you can use both the control feature as well as individually moving around the fingers yourself. So that is very useful. I find that it's a lot faster to work with. Similar things that are lots faster to work with, big update with the mouth control. So before, you may have remembered, I had just basically the equivalent of this where I had individual controls here, that, like this, like that, and so forth. I've moved it so that you can have this primary control here, which is basically a mouse shape control. So I move this around, you get different mouse shapes. So moving down moves the jaw down, moving to the left moves, move open a little bit. Moving to the left makes it go wider, to the right narrower, up until it's basically closed. In addition to that, you have a control over the shape. So over here in this slider, by default, it's on this sort of rounded view. I can move it down, and the shape will go back to being square, which is, you can kind of consider it to be the default as what it was before. So again, this is now a square shape. In addition to that, you have control over frowning versus smiling with the scale of this control. If I scale it in, it's more of a frown. If I scale it out, it's more of a smile. And again, that works also with the corners control. So that is pretty awesome. In addition to that, you can rotate it. So if I rotate it along this way, you shift the center of the mouth from one side to the other. So again, that's an extra bit of detail, maybe useful if you want to use it. Additionally, if you rotate it on its x-axis, you turn the lips in and out. So if I were to completely clear the location of this, even though the mouth is closed and technically the vertices are completely flushed together and you wouldn't be able to see anything, because it's rotated in like that, you can see a highlight of the mouth shape. So that's useful for showing a mouth shape even when the mouth is closed, which before was not really possible. And you can do the opposite, where it's kind of, the lips are open a little bit. So again, even though his mouth is closed, it's like he's smiling a little bit. So again, this is a modifier on top of the existing controls here. So even though, yes, I am controlling it here, you can also still and additionally control of these pieces here. And again, if I were to turn off this mouse shape. So like right now, this with the rounded, excuse me, rounded mouse shape on, pardon me, you can only move around this top one. This bottom one will just stay fixed. But if you move this back down, then again, you regain control of the other corner. So that's useful. Another little tip, I added in a feature where if you use scaling on these individual mouth features or mouth controls, you can basically make the lips protrude outwards or inwards. That can be useful for doing some extra funky shapes. I don't know, whatever you would want to do. And rotation now is much nice. You can do some much more complex special shapes with it, which before were, again, less possible. So I actually reduced the number of individual control points, but I feel like it's much more flexible and easier to work with. You can make nice curves and shapes and so forth. And you can make like little dimples in the side if you scale those in up there. So you can see kind of how that looks a little bit weird, actually. You can see how that works. That's pretty nice. So in addition to that, you also have teeth control. Long time ago, I had controls to the teeth. I removed it. I've added it back in. So you can, if you want, modify where the teeth are. Because by default, it almost looks like they're a little bit hidden or not there. But, you can move the upper and the lower pretty easily now. All right. Similar control setup is with the eyebrows and eyelids. So here's the eyebrow control. As you can see, moving to the right changes, or right left changes its rotation. Moving it up or down moves it up or down. Moving the scale or changing the scale will change the curvature of or how much it's curved in the middle. And then rotating it, given that it's scaled one way or another, if you rotate it with some scaling on it, it will change again where the middle point of the rotation is. And the eyelids basically work the same way. So to the left, to the right, scaling, rotating. You can change, modify like that. So this makes it phenomenally quicker to move around and manipulate the shapes of the eyes and eye expressions. And the fact that it's one control for all of these different features is super useful. Again, like everything else, you still have these individual points that you can animate in addition to these parameters up here. So you still have full control in that way if you want that. But for the most part, I don't touch those at all anymore. I just use these controls, which is very convenient. And then you have also the update to the eyes. So it's, maybe not that surprising, but you can move it around. You can rotate it. Not many rigs can do that, so that can be useful, I guess. Scaling it. And then also on the second layer, I have options for moving the eyes outwards, as if you're kind of going, I guess, opposite of cross-eye, and then cross-eye, moving it in farther like that. So that's useful. And then you also have the secondary controls for if you want to add individual manipulations of the eyes. So you can do some really crazy effects, but while still being able to control them in the general way here. So it still works for both of them. And you can, in fact, scale them down to 0, which is also useful. You couldn't do that before. And you don't lose the position of the control rig, which is nice. Oop, hairbind for a moment. I also updated it to 1.8 Minecraft skins. So if I go into the image viewer here, you can see I have the new version or the layout of Minecraft skins. This is the wider aspect, not the thin arms, but you can modify it to be that way if you want, the so-called Alex rig. On the second layer of this rig, you have the second layer objects. Currently, they are, actually, I guess some of it are. For the most part, when you re-download this, I'll fix it. It will not have this group here. So you notice in here, the objects are having this green outline that implies they're part of the group Steve. So that when you do library linking, which I'll show at the very end, this will actually show up in the group. So currently, the second layer objects here do not have that enabled. But if you want to basically include it as part of the rig, you go to here and include Steve. And so now the arms are part of the group. So if I were to go into a new file, and I were to do a link, then go to wherever it is that I place this file. Give me a moment. Actually, no, it's right here. Cool. And then I go to group, and then Steve. I've added in the file here. And then if I do proxy, so this is how you actually control the rig because it's library linked. So it's not actually appended, but linking in the file. If I do proxy, And then Steve.arma, I can control the rig. If I go in, or basically add in display, no, shading, sorry, texture solid, you can see that the arms are there. All right, that's very useful. But you do note there's some like glitches in that the arms are overlapping with the sleeves. Well, that's because I already modified the basic default Steve. So if I go back to the Fancy Feet rig, you note that the sleeves on this rig are already extruded. So if I wanted to create a custom skin, I would first delete that. I would also delete the hair. And then I would basically use these already made objects here and you basically modify them the way I want. So if I want to create a different skin that has a different kind of basically cut second layer, maybe I don't want the ends of the sleeves but the rest of it to be there, I'd delete those vertices, I'd move it to this other layer. Then you notice that they're kind of bent not the right way. So then I would make sure I'd go into here, select the rings, go over to here, add a crease of 1, and then search, or I guess it's actually over here. I want to make the edges sharp. So I'm marking them as sharp. So that will make them so that they're flush and, crisp lines like that. So that is how you basically utilize this rig. All right, so those are the main updates to the rig overall. So again, it's a very useful rig. It's very powerful, very generic, and it allows you to do lots of cool things. Things that are not new that I'll just re-demo again are the fancy feet. So other rigs will have stretchy or sort of bendy feet. That is not the style of this rig. This rig goes for a more realistic approach where your foot rolls and rocks on the floor without bending and doing weird things like that. So if I move this back and forth, you'll notice that the corners or the edges of the foot will roll and rock on the floor realistically. That is what the fancy feet rig does. That's this slider over here on this control. If I move it off, that's sort of like the default IK inverse kinematics rig control where the foot would actually sort of dip through the floor, not actually realistically interact with the ground. So a new feature added to the fancy feet controls is before you couldn't really do side rocking and rolling, or by default it was on and it actually made it a little bit unstable in certain situations. So by now the default is off, but if you want to turn the side rocking and rolling back on, all you have to do is go down into the properties while selecting one of the IK foot controls, and you change this property side rock from 0 to 1. So before I press enter, you see that right now it is dipping through the floor a little bit side to sidewise. If I turn this to 1, the corner is now flush to where it should be. So now if I move the foot anywhere on the floor, it will never dip through or down. It's always rocking and rolling realistically off of the floor. So that is a cool feature that can, for close-ups of feet or things where you want to show that extra detail, it really makes a big difference. It looks unrealistic when you have things clipping through other things, and that happens a lot with IK feet controls. All right. If you have any questions, definitely comment below and I'll try and respond as quickly as I can. Definitely try out this rig. It's very useful. It's very convenient. This is the basic rig that I used for the Destroy You music parody, and previous iterations of it are what I've been using for a long time, like the Herobrine trilogy and so forth. So it's a very useful rig. I like it a lot, and I think it's much improved in this version, so definitely try it out. All right, that's all for now. Until next time, Moo-Ack.